Zettel für die lange Weg. 2 Flaschen Whisky für die Zeit. Und ich date gern habe, du bist dabei. Maria geht, fahrt mal weg, ist weit. Wann ich geh, ich werd dir fehlen, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht, was ich mach, du sehst nicht, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir fehlen, du watsch sehen. Hab kriegt mein Zettel für den langen Weg. Du scheinst da, als mir finden kann. Es hat Maria und Dale ganz wunderbar. Als ich dir den weiße dann, wann ich geh, ich werd dir fehlen, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht, was ich mach, du sehst nicht, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir fehlen, du watsch sehen. Well, hello, dear Lied, liebe Lied. Welcome back to PA Dutch Live. This is our May episode. I can't believe it's May already. Heck, May's almost the whole way around. We're coming up on June before you know it, dear people. I cannot believe that. Can you? Now, before we get started, I usually don't start this way, but I'm going to start this way tonight. I had to talk about my supper this evening because this evening I came home from a long day of work and school, teaching kids that no longer want to be taught because summer's so close. They all have shut down already for the year. But so is it. So is how it goes. Anyway, I had a wonderful meal of Pennsylvania Dutch sausage with some, and I got to tell you where it was from. It was from our good friends at Dietrich's in Crumsville. So some of you out there know Dietrich's very well. This was from a pig that our family raised and they butchered for us and made up the sausage. Delicious with some good buttered egg noodles and some red cabbage. Now, does that sound Pennsylvania Dutch or does that sound Pennsylvania Dutch? It sure tasted Pennsylvania Dutch. I will tell you that much. So the next time you want some good homemade fresh sausage, you know where to go. Go to the good people up in Crumsville at Dietrich's Country Meats and Store. People, you are out there. I'm glad you're joining us. You know, this is a live stream show, so you can comment in real time. We can highlight your comment. Please let us know where you are watching us or joining us from. I love seeing where everybody's from. And we got some people already here. We got good old Mo, who's joined us a couple months here in a row, coming in from Richmond, Virginia. Wonderful to have you, Mo. Thanks for joining us. We got Yuri. It's rainy here in the Netherlands. Well, I'll tell you what, here in Pennsylvania, Yuri, today was just like, I thought it was the middle of July. We hit the upper 80s. It was hot, sunny. I walked out of school today and I had long pants on. I thought, boy, I got to get these pants off as soon as I get home. It was hot. Summer is here in Pennsylvania. Yay. We got, Olivia says road coal. That's right. That red cabbage was delicious. Norman joins us saying, hey, Gute Maria, Doug. Well, Gute Maria to you, Norman. He joins us often. Olivia is also telling us, you know where she's from? The Big Ton of Newport, Pennsylvania. My goodness. Our good friend Chris is joining us as well. Hi, Doug. I usually don't write my name with that many G's. Are you that excited, Chris, for the show? What else we got going on here? We got people. We got Kurt joining us from Pembroke, Pennsylvania. That's so wonderful. So as you can see, people, please feel free to comment as the night goes on. We're going to have a wonderful guest on that I'm so excited to share with all of you, Nic Stolzfus, and the story that he's going to bring about the Nicholas Stolzfus Homestead. It's a wonderful story. He's got tons of really great pictures to share with everybody today. I think you will absolutely be blown away. Kathy's joining us from the Big Town, Elizabethtown. Beautiful Elizabethtown, Lancaster County. We got Chris also saying, hey, I'm from Tulpehocken in the Ole Valley. Well, now, that's about as Pennsylvania Dutch as it comes right there. How about it? And we also have a former Berks County joining us from the Big Town of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Welcome for joining. And I can't wait to get this show really rolling. But as always, I do want to start with just a couple of announcements to let you guys know what's happening in the greater Pennsylvania Dutch community, events coming up. I'll tell you what, COVID is, thank God, really starting to take a back seat. We got numbers going down, people getting vaccinated. I got my shot. I'm good to go. You can take your masks off now, according to the CDC in certain places. And slowly events are starting to be planned for the summer. Some things coming up. So I do want to highlight just a couple things real quick. Let me share my screen with all of you lovely people. And we'll start with this announcement first. And this is one that I'm not bragging here, but I'm telling you what, if you got nothing else to do on Sunday, June 13th, that's coming fast now at 6 p.m. and you're in the greater Berks County area, I would invite you to come out to the North Heidelberg United Church of Christ. It's right there in, well, it says down there at the bottom. It's about on Scheide Road in Rappasonia, just off of Route 183. There's going to be this really great band playing there that evening called the Broken Spokes. I might know them. I just might know them. Anyway, if you join us that night, it's a free concert, family friendly, under the shade trees. What that just sounds wonderful. We're going to have old-timey music, Americana music, some really bad jokes, because that's what I like to do when I got a crowd in front of me. And we'll do some Pennsylvania Dutch music as well. What more could you want? And if it would be bad weather that night, if it starts to make dawn, well, then we're going to go into the church and we'll continue the concert there. So mark your calendar, Sunday, June 13th at 6 p.m. Join us at me and my good friend Chris LaRose. The Brogan Spokes will be playing at the North Heidelberg UCC Church there, right outside our Rappasonia. Look forward to meeting you guys. And if you're there, well, you got to come talk to us, of course, after the show or during the show. What else can I share with you guys? There's another event coming up that I just learned about that I'd like to share with everybody. Also in June 26th, it's a Saturday, coming up at historic Schaefferstown. Now, if you have never been to historic Schaefferstown, this is a great reason to go. It is an awesome location. They really tell the Pennsylvania Dutch story well. In any event, it is their annual Cherry Fair, an early American craft show. And as you can see there, the details are there Saturday, June 26th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the historic Alexander Schaefer Farm. There's the address in Schaefferstown, Pennsylvania. It is $5 to get in, but that money, I'm sure, goes towards the upkeep and the cost associated with running the historic Schaefferstown. So there's tons of stuff. Please check them out. You can find them on Facebook as well, or their website, which will have more information. So June 13th, come listen to me play and tell bad jokes. And then on the 26th, go to the Cherry Fair. I would also bring up that there is also in June, what's the date here? I got it written down. June 22nd. I don't have a flyer for this one. Kutztown, our big family-friendly city of Kutztown, Pennsylvania, will be having their arts and craft show on the 22nd, running from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I know that there will be Pennsylvania Dutch folk artists there selling their wares, and there'll probably be some good Pennsylvania Dutch food to get as well. One last announcement. I think I announced this last month, but it's good to keep everybody up to date. The famous Kutztown Folk Festival will not be happening in person this year. We expected it. The decision was made. However, at the time of when the Folk Festival usually runs, the last week in June into the early part of July, they will be having a virtual Folk Festival. To learn more information about the Folk Festival, check out their website or their Facebook page. They've been posting a lot of information recently so that you can, find out what is happening as far as the virtual event goes, what the dates are going to be, what's going to be happening, et cetera, et cetera. So check out the Kutztown Folk Festival, and, then you can get some more PA Dutch love at that event. Carol Diefenbach-Kanner, our good friend, says, hey, I hear those folks at North Heidelberg are pretty nice. Winky face. They are really nice people. Otherwise, we wouldn't be going and playing for them. So hopefully anyone that wants to can come out and join the fun, because it's worth it. Trust me. I have blabbled enough. I gave you some updates. I told you about my supper and the weather. So now it's time to get a different face on this show. One that's a heck of a lot better looking than me, and probably one that you'll like to listen to as well. This week, I am so happy this month, I'm so happy that Nic Stolzfus is joining us. Let me bring him into the stream right now. Nicholas, welcome to PA Dutch Live.
Wie bist du, Doug?
Hey, ich bin arg gut, Bruder. Wie bist du?
Ich bin gut.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I got to tell you, me and my parents last night, we had a discussion about pot pie.
Okay.
And
go on.
So I'm my dad grew up Amish here in Lancaster, but I was born and raised down in Florida. And so when I think of pot pie, it's in a deep dish pie pan. And I remember within a couple months of me moving up here to Berks County, I was corrected right away. And I learned what pot pie really is.
So you have heard the gospel now, and it's
I,
about time.
I have heard the Berks County gospel. I've been converted.
Hallelujah. Well,
Yes.
you know, I have run into people before that have gotten rather loud with me about this, and I tend not to. I won't rise up to their level, but it gets ugly sometimes when people talk about their, as Olivia says, their butt boy, as we say in Pennsylvania Dutch. I am just glad that you have it, and that you had it, and you had this argument. So now you know, so you can correct people as well when they say to you, why it comes in a pie. Well, now that's just ridiculous, as we all know here in Pennsylvania Dutch. I didn't bring you on to talk about the qualities of pot pie, although that's a great episode too, if we really wanted to do that. However, Nick, please, I'm going to let you kind of take over here. Everybody, Nick is going to tell us the story about his family, who descend from Nicholas Stolzfus. He just happens to share the name. And tell us a little bit about the historic property that the family is maintaining right now. So, Nick, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks much. So let me go ahead and get my shared screen set up here. And let's see. All right. I've got that ready. Do I need to?
And I'm going to, nope, there we go.
Okay, great. So I'm going to just kind of talk about, first I want to share some of the context with our viewers and listeners. And as you have comments, Doug, or if people have comments in the chat room, let me know. You can just kind of stop me and we can just kind of have a conversation like we're sitting out on the front porch. I'm down with that.
I'm a big fan of front porches, so that sounds great to me.
Yes, especially with this hot weather. So I'm going to start off. So who was the immigrant Stoltzfus family? So for any of those of you who have any familiarity with Southeast Pennsylvania and Lancaster County, you have come across the Stoltzfus name. You might have visited Stoltzfus Meat Market down in Intercourse and had some delicious food there. Maybe there was a Stoltzfus buggy ride that you went on, or had some delicious Stoltzfus lemon bologna. But we're kind of everywhere in the Lancaster County area. And believe it or not, all of the Anabaptists, so Amish or Mennonite Stoltzfuses in Lancaster County, are descended from one family. And that family is Nicholas Stolzfus and his wife, Anna Elizabeth Bachman was her maiden name, Bachman Stoltzfus. And according to Elizabethtown College, the Young Center for Anabaptist and Pietist Studies, Stoltzfus is the most common last name amongst Lancaster County Amish. So it's a very common name, and all of those Amish would be descended again from this one family. So let me kind of give you that background of who they are and where they come from in Germany. So the Bachmans, like other Amish, like most other Old Order Amish in the Lancaster County area, came from Bern, Switzerland, which is circled there on the bottom. They left Bern, Switzerland in the 1500s, 1600s during the Reformation. They were persecuted by Swiss officials. They made their way up through Alsace-Lorraine region of France, eastern France, and then eventually wound up in southwestern Germany. Kind of the Palatinate, in the city of Zweibrücken. And so there was a farmer by the name of Christian Bachman. He was Anabaptist. We're not sure if he was Amish or Mennonite, but definitely Anabaptist. He was a farmer in Zweibrücken in the early 1700s. And then his daughter was named Anna Elizabeth, and she was married to Nicholas Stolzfus. And that's where they had their children and farmed, raised their family in that city. What's interesting, so Anna Elizabeth Bachman had a story that was similar to other Amish, kind of from Switzerland. They were persecuted, made their way up through France into Germany. But Nicholas Stolzfus is kind of that wild card. And he brings kind of this interesting mix to the Anabaptists who were living in Germany. And so for Nicholas, the Stoltzfuses were not from Southwest Germany. They were actually from Eastern Germany, in the Duchy of Schwarzburg-Rudolstadt, which was by kind of Czech Republic, Poland area. And they were Lutheran. They were not Anabaptists at all. And so Nicholas Stolzfus's grandfather and great-grandfather, they were Lutheran ministers. They were actually university educated at the University of Jena. And so they were there for generations. And this picture here is St. John's Lutheran Church in the small town of Rotleben. And there was a group of us Stoltzfus descendants that we did a genealogy tour back in summer of 2018. And so we got to go to Zweibrücken, we visited there, and then we went to East Germany and visited some of those historic sites. And that was really incredible to be able to kind of follow in the footsteps of our Stoltzfus family.
Nic, before you go on, there is one question real quick. Olivia wants to know, do you know what kind of persecution they experienced? Was it violent?
Yes. So, yes, it was violent, particularly in the 1500s. And those stories of persecution are told in the book known as the Martyr's Mirror. And a lot of Amish and Mennonite homes have a copy of that book, which kind of tells the story of the martyrs. And it's this big, thick book. And even today, if you go to like an old order Amish home, they'll have that book. However, by the 1700s, which is when we kind of get to Nicholas Stolzfus and his wife, they were not persecuted to the level of being martyred. However, they still experience discrimination. So the Amish and Mennonites who were living in Zweibrücken, in the Duchy of Zweibrücken, were not able to own land, and they were treated as second-class citizens. And that was one of the reasons why a lot of Amish and Mennonites decided to emigrate to Germany, decided to emigrate to Pennsylvania, was because of the opportunity to own land, and also because of religious freedom as well.
Yeah, Olivia, I can say that when we're looking at the 1500s, the era that Nic had referenced earlier, like the first wave of Anabaptists in Switzerland, when he says martyred, they were martyred. A lot of them were burned alive or burned at the stake. Groups were rounded up and killed in mass. That's why a lot of them then fled from Switzerland up the Rhine River into areas around the Palatinate, et cetera. And then, as Nic said, as one or two or three generations passed, then eventually the push was to come to the United States, where they had opportunities like owning land, like practicing their faith the way that they wanted to practice it. So, I mean, those are all things that a lot of people, unless you really know your history, aren't familiar with. You know, I wonder, why are the Amish here in the United States? You know, and it all comes back to this era in history that Nic's referencing right now.
Yeah. So what's interesting is the Stoltzfus line that was not their history. Their history was Lutheran. And so Nicholas Stolzfus kind of brings this fresh blood in. And so you're wondering, okay, well, how did Nicholas get from East Germany to over to Western Germany? And what it was is Nicholas's father, Christoph, made the move. And unlike his father and grandfather, Nicholas's father was a wig maker, which would be a step down the social ladder, because his father and grandfather, they would have had more interactions with like the dukes, the royalty in the duchy. So he was kind of a step down. And so he had to look for work on his own. And so it's likely he moved, like many of us today, moved for work to another location, moved to Zweibrücken in Western Germany, and became a wig maker. And that's where he met Nicholas's mother. And so, however, Nicholas's father died young. And he was like 26 years old, 29 years old. And so Nicholas was still a toddler, and his mother remarried a pond digger named Daniel Belair. Interestingly enough, Nicholas actually grew up on the country estate of the Duke of Zweibrücken. And if you can see, the top is the picture of Palace Liesenthal, which is the country estate. And again, this would have been the early 1700s. And again, this is very different than, say, Amish Mennonite farmers who were out in the fields and they're living in big kind of communal farms there in Germany. So, but Nicholas, he was the stepson. His mother and his stepfather ended up having four more children of their own, and so he was left to fend for himself. As a young man, he went to go work for Anabaptist farmers in the city of Wissembourg, France. So kind of went across the border to France, worked for Anabaptist farmers, and in a statement where he gives his testimony about his life, he says he became familiar with their quiet ways and embraced them as my own. And you see that throughout Amish and Mennonite history, where they will take people in like refugees, orphans, that sort of thing. That's common throughout Amish and Mennonite history. And so that's what these Anabaptist farmers did for Nicholas Stolzfus. They took him in, and he ended up converting to the Anabaptist faith. He married Anna Elizabeth. They had 7 children. They were farmers. And again, they weren't able to own land because they were not part of the 3 official religions, which was Catholicism, Lutheranism, and Reformed. So, like a lot of other Amish and Mennonite farmers, they left the Duchy of Zweibrücken for Pennsylvania in 1766. And so, kind of to give a little context of what was going on for those who like Berks County history. So a lot of us today, we associate Lancaster County with the Amish, but believe it or not, the first organized Amish settlement in America was in Berks County. And it was actually started in 1736 along the North Kill Creek. And it was at that North Kill Amish community there's a Hostetler massacre that took place there during the French and Indian War. And so that's well known among Amish and Mennonites today. So that's eventually where the Stoltzfuses ended up, in Berks County. So they left Germany in 1766. They were on a 150-ton British ship Polly, started in Rotterdam, and then it took 2 months to go across the Atlantic. They landed in Philadelphia in October of 1766. So let's see, they signed the Oath of Allegiance at the courthouse. And then we do think the first 4 years when the Stoltzfus family came to America, they likely lived in Lancaster County. But then by 1770, they are a Berks County farm family, and they purchased land in Berks County along the Tolpahocken Creek. And they did not build the Nicholas Stolzfus Homestead, but when they purchased the property, the stone house was there. And so
I'll just pop in here as a kid from Berks County. When you look at this map, if you know Berks County today, trying to imagine that there would be all these acres of farmland in that area around the Berkshire Mall and Berkshire Square and all that, which right off of 422 and 222, it's difficult to imagine that. But at one time, it was all rural, farm and agricultural land.
Yes. Yeah, and like there's going to be a picture I'm going to show you later on. It's like, there's no mall, nothing like that, and you're just like, the area has completely changed. Yeah. So this is where the Stoltzfus family, they end up, and then so then what happened to the family? So 1770, 1771, they purchased the land here. The immigrant Nicholas Stolzfus was actually in Pennsylvania for less than a decade. So he actually dies in Berks County in 1774. His wife dies a couple years later. Now, their son, Christian, becomes an Amish bishop. And so the way the Amish choose their religious leaders is through the lot. And so they have the Amish songbooks known as the Ausbund. and they put a couple of them out, and one of them has a slip of paper in it. And then if you get the Alsbund with the slip of paper, then that means you become like the deacon or the bishop or the minister. And so Nicholas's son Christian was chosen by Lot to be a bishop. And so they were here in Berks County. Then they left for Lancaster in 1801. He became bishop of a kind of the struggling Lancaster Amish congregation, and was really important in the leadership role in those years when the Lancaster County Amish congregation was struggling, and helped to provide much needed leadership. Their daughter Barbara married the Amish farmer John Schmucker. Now, these Schmuckers are related to the Smucker jelly people, but you have to trace it all the way back to Switzerland. And that's its own story. But I get a lot of people who ask that. Their daughter Anna married an Amish farmer, Christian Forer, and he was actually a farmer in the Ole Valley. I saw one of our readers checked in from there, or viewers checked in from there. And then their fourth child, Magdalena, we don't know what happened to her. It's just kind of the records trail thin. So that's the history of the family. And they were at the Stoltzfus homestead for a total of 34 years. So 1771 until 1804. Nicholas lived there, and then after he passed away, his son Christian lived there. Christian sold it to his brother-in-law, John Schmucker. The Schmuckers lived there, and then they sold it to their son-in-law, Solomon King, who was married to their daughter, Veronica King, who was Nicholas Stolzfus's granddaughter. And then they were the ones eventually who sold it outside of the family to a Daniel Meyer in 1804. So for 34 years, the Stoltzfus family was here at the homestead. And just briefly, I want to share that the Stoltzfuses weren't the only Amish family here in Berks County, in Reading. Today we don't associate, Amish buggies clip-clopping through the city of Reading, but back in the late 1700s, there's about 15 or so families, Amish farm families, who lived in the Reading area. And if you look at this map here, most of them were on the western side of the Schuylkill River. And so here's some of the last names. We'll kind of start at the top. You have Zook, you have Lapp, Schwartzentruber, Stoltzfus, Schmucker, Gerber, Kurtz, Koenig or King, Hertzler, Miller, and Koblenz. And so a lot, some of these families then left for Lancaster County or further west, like out to where Doug lives eventually, and then eventually even out to Ohio and further points west. And the kind of that congregation, the Reading Amish congregation, fell apart then by the early 1800s. And there aren't a lot of houses that are still standing, or farmhouses from that period of time, but there are a couple. So we have the Pfeiffer farmhouse, which is managed by Penn State Berks, also known as the Daniel Zook farmhouse. The Wyomissing Stone House, known as the John Schmucker Homestead, and that's managed by the borough of Wyomissing. And actually, if you're a borough resident, you can rent the Stone House and use it, and they do a great job of taking care of it. And then the Nicholas Stolzfus Homestead. And here's a lovely rendition of what the homestead may have looked like back in 1771. So when the Stoltzfuses lived there, it would have just been a 1.5-story stone house. And that's what it may have looked like. All right. And then I do want to share briefly a history of the Nicholas Stolzfus Homestead. So like I said, Doug, I wanted to share this photo of you of what the homestead looked like before the mall and all this. And this picture comes from Scott Green, who's a descendant of the Green family who lived in the Wyoming area. So his ancestors, the Green family, owned the homestead back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And so this is what the property looked like. And as you can see, it's in the 1800s, there was a second story added to the stone house. And then there's this beautiful bank barn, which unfortunately burned down in the early 20th century. And so it was a beautiful working farm in the early 20th century, but by 1994, by the 1990s, it was in horrible shape. I mean, it looked like a haunted house. And you may wonder, well, what happened? What happened over the course of the 20th century is that in the late 1980s, early 1990s, there was the 422-222 bypass that was being built right next to the homestead. And so the Department of PennDOT said, okay, well, you need to close this house down. We're going to condemn it. We may have to we may have to destroy it. Tear it down. Yeah. And so the renters who were living there, they actually evicted them. It was the Schlegel family was living there at the time. And a decade went by, nobody lived there, and nobody was taking care of the house, and it just fell into disrepair. But by 2000, the Country Meadows Retirement Homes, which is owned and managed by the Leader family, purchased the property. And Amish descendants of Nicholas Stolzfus came on property and began to restore it. And that was sort of an association with the Pequay Bruderschaft Amish Library down in Lancaster County, was heavily involved at that time. And so they repointed the stone house. They cleared away the property. And so you see here over a 5-year period of time, I mean, it just looked like a haunted house. I mean, you know, it's just a dead end hangout and not in good shape. And 5 years later, it just is in marvelous condition. And honestly, one of my favorite things about the house are the beautiful red windows. And the Mast family actually provided the wood and set those window panes. And that's the Mast family from Masthof, the printers. And the inside, same thing. It just from a haunted house until now we have a fireplace. And same with the upstairs. We have it set so people can go on tours. And even the barn, you know, of course the barn burned down. And so we had a groundbreaking in 2008. And 4 years later, we finished a beautiful 2-story bank barn. And then this is what it looks like today. This is a digital rendition of the homestead this winter when we had those 22 inches of snow. And so there's that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, those pictures are unbelievable, Nick, that just going from what it was, like you showed when the vines were crawling all over it and the roof was falling apart, and to where you guys have it today is a testament just in the hard work and the time and the money that was invested. But I mean, now you have to be so proud every time you walk on that property and see how it has been brought back to life. Unbelievable. So I guess we can tell some people, you know, well, so you mentioned you give tours, so tours are available. Can you talk a little bit about that? If somebody is really interested now in about learning more about the Nicholas Stolzfus Homestead or coming to take a tour, what do they have to do?
Yes, absolutely. So right now we're offering tours. We would love for you to come and see the homestead. I'm no longer, I was the caretaker there from 2018 to 2020, but my parents, Elam and Esther Stoltzfus, are the current caretakers. And so if you want to take a tour of the homestead, you can go on our website, which is www.nicholasstolzfus.com. And let me share this up again real quick.
Sure.
So you can go on our website, www.nicholasstolzfus.com. You can schedule a tour by giving us a call on our phone. You know, you can just drop by, and here's the address. You know, the grounds are usually open, so if you want to take pictures, but if you do want to take a tour, we definitely would appreciate if you give the caretakers a heads up. So yeah, that's sort of how you can schedule a tour with us.
And I will put a link to their website in the show notes or in the video notes down below on the YouTube channel. So you can just click right on the link, take you to their website. They also have a Facebook page that's active
Yeah.
that you can engage with the family there as well. Just to look at some here, we got some comments here. I just want to share a couple. We got a couple other viewers that joined us a little later. Matt Neff joining us from Walnut Port. That's Pennsylvania Dutch country. And Barbara, you really are staying up late. She's coming in from Schönenberg, Germany in the Pfalz. Boy, what is it? 1:30 in the morning over there right now. Thank you for staying up. Hopefully we're keeping you awake and not, or maybe you watched just to fall asleep. We don't know, but thank you for joining us. And we got Will joining us from the other side of the Susquehanna River there in York, Pennsylvania. Here's a longer comment, but I didn't get a chance to read it all. But this is from Norman. He's in Germany as well. There's a historical connection of some sort between the Stoltzfus family and J.R.R. Tolkien's use of the name Proudfoot for the Hobbit family in the Shire. And by the way, greetings from Steinbach am Glan, just 15 miles away from Zweibrücken. So there you go. You started smiling when you saw this, Nick. I'll let you comment.
Yeah, actually, in my latest book I did, so I'm gonna plug my book right here.
Plug away.
Yes, In the Footsteps of My Stoltzfus Family, a genealogy memoir. It's printed by Masthof Press. You can go to their website and get it. I actually have a whole chapter where I kind of talk about our last name, somewhat tongue in cheek. And Norman had a great comment, good question there. Part of the story is we were over in West Germany, and we were driving to East Germany, and when we got there, we were talking about, okay, where does our name really come from? And so I go on the internet and I type in the German spelling of Stoltzfus, and I find this website comes up, Der Herr der Ring Wiki, and it comes up with this Odo Stoltzfus. And I said, Odo, that's a really interesting kind of like that Germanic Norse name. So I clicked the link, and here it's the curmudgeonly hobbit from The Lord of the Rings. So maybe there's some Lord of the Ring connection, and we're just a bunch of grouchy hobbits. But no, in all seriousness, Stoltzfus, the earliest kind of formation of that surname is Stoltzfus. Paul Stoltzfus was the earliest record we have found in our genealogy, and he was a herdsman in East Germany in the city of Rudolstadt. And that record is 1624. And Stoltzfus, it means stilt walker. And we're not really sure where that name comes from. Kind of one theory that some of us have is that there were herdsmen in Europe who used stilts when they were walking through the swamps, so they wouldn't sink down when they were herding their sheep. Another possibility is, let's see, I think it's in Belgium. There's a festival where people joust on stilts. And so it was kind of like a game for knights that they would kind of joust and fight on stilts, kind of as for like Ren Fair, whatever, for Renaissance Fair,
right.
That sort of thing. So were we circus performers? Were we herdsmen? Were we just grouchy hobbits? I don't really know.
Might have been all three at once.
Yeah, exactly. A grouchy hobbit on stilts who's fighting other shepherds, and I don't know, in armor. It could have been. But 1624 is as far back as our line goes, and where the name comes from, we're not exactly sure.
You're very lucky that you were able to go back that far. I know there's a lot of people that would kill to be able to trace their lineage back just a couple generations. So I know that you're probably very proud of that, and then you understand how lucky you are to be able to have a paper record that can take you back and know all these names. And I'm just so glad that you shared all that with us tonight. I think the story is awesome. I think, for most people that are in the Berks County area, I don't even know how many Berks Countyans are aware of the Stoltzfus Homestead. and that it is available to tour, but also, it's prom season, wedding season coming up. People want to get pictures. What more, that's the absolute beautiful backdrop for any photo, a beautiful Pennsylvania Dutch farmhouse. My goodness. It doesn't get much prettier than that. So like I said, Nick, I will put the link to to your website in the show notes, and you can reach out. There's an email address too that Nick shared with us, and definitely I'm sure they welcome any communication from anybody out there that's interested in either learning more about Nick's family history, and of course visiting the homestead. And as Nick said, I'm all fine with him plugging anything he wants to plug here on the show, but he does have a publication out through Mastove Press that you can purchase directly through their website, and no matter where you are in the world, they'll ship it right to your front door. Doesn't get much better than that.
and Doug, real quick, June 13th, there's this great band playing in Berks County, and I'm planning on being there. So,
well, now listen to that. So if you decide to come to North Heidelberg UCC Church on the 13th of June, not only do you get to meet me, but more importantly, Nick's going to be there, and you can talk to Nick. That's wonderful. Real quick, Nick, Carol said, hey, you should mention the benefit auction in May. Do you want to say something real quick about that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Carol. We actually had our 19th annual benefit auction. It takes place every first Saturday in May here at the homestead. And for us, it's like a big family reunion. And even if you're a Stoltzfus, not a Stoltzfus, we would love for you to come by. But we do it every year. It's the first Saturday of May, and all proceeds go to help with restoration, education efforts here at the homestead. And this year was our best year we've had yet. Lot of fun. Yeah.
I think everybody was interested to just get outside and no matter what, post-COVID. So that'll be happening again next May. You already missed this year's, but something to look forward to. And again, I'm sure on their social media sites, they'll be promoting that when the calendar goes round once again and we get to next May. And as Carol says, if you go buy a quilt, she said.
Yes.
I like that. Well, Nick, let me just see if there's any other questions that anybody has asked. I don't think so. People just checking in. We got JSMC joining us from the Midwest, LaGrange County, Indiana. Thanks for joining us. And Larry Crispin, he's a good friend on Facebook, saying thanks for sharing. It is a great story, Larry. So thanks so much, Nick, for doing that, of course, from him. And yeah. Oh, we got someone joining us now. Eric's joining us from the Poconos, the big old Poconos in Pennsylvania. Well, Nick, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'd just like to say again, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Like I said, I'll link all of your information so that if anybody wants to learn more, they can. But hopefully be able to have you back on the show at some point in the future. And you can tell us about how you've expanded the property even more, and you have these other amazing things happening. And I wish you only success with the homestead. And I'm so glad that your family chose to, preserve the property, and not only just preserve it, but bring it back to the way it should be, that let its beauty show and be able to tell your story. So thanks again, Nick, so much for joining us. And like I said, we'll get you back on here in the near future.
Sounds good. Ma scoot, Doug.
Yeah, mock scoot, Nick. Well, everyone, how wonderful was that? We got people joining us from the West Coast of the United States here. Ginger, thanks so much for joining us from Sacramento, California. Rachel Yoder, she's clapping. And I agree, Rachel. That was great, wasn't it? Nick is a wealth of knowledge. He told me before we actually started the show that, and I wasn't aware of this, but he grew up in Florida and has moved back to the homeland, so to speak. And it's in his journey back here physically that he was able to do all of this research and learn about his family. And it's just, what a wonderful, wonderful story, bringing that circle back around. So Nick, thanks so much for joining us. It was wonderful having you here on the show. We got Cartersville, Georgia. My goodness, we got people from all over the place joining us tonight. Gruber, Matthias Gruber. That's a good Berks County name too. Gruber Wagon Works. I'll give them a shout out real quick. So what usually happens episodes at this point in the show. I usually get here towards the end and I do two things every month for you guys. One, I like to do something in the language in the form of a Pennsylvania Dutch poem. So I'm going to do that. And then we're going to teach you a Pennsylvania Dutch song. And then if anybody has any other questions or anything like that, we'll kind of wrap up the show and talk a little bit about what might be coming in the future. But let's get some good Pennsylvania Dutch thrown at you so that you can walk away and say, hey, I learned a whole heck of a lot tonight, not only about the Nicholas Stolzfus Homestead, but I did some Pennsylvania Dutch too. Our poem this month comes from the one and only Peter Fritsch. Now, we're staying on the Berks County theme tonight because Peter Fritsch was a good Berks County boy, born in 1945, spent most of his life in the Long Swamp Township area there in southeastern Berks County, eastern Berks County, and he was many things: a musician, a poet, an art teacher, and a wonderful human being. He passed away back in 2015. We lost a great person when he passed away in 2015. But before he did pass away, he left us books of Scherenschnitte, our traditional Pennsylvania Dutch scissor cuttings, and a lot of his poetry, which is, in my mind, as far as 20th century poets in the language go, and I know this might make some people angry, some of the purists, I think he's the best. I'm going to say that. So I chose one of his poems, one of his shorter ones, called En dollar Oefspora, which translates into, saving a dollar. So I have the Pennsylvania Dutch on one side and the English translation on the other side. I'll read the Pennsylvania Dutch for you. You can either follow along in the Pennsylvania Dutch or you can follow along in the English. So something from our good friend Peter Fritsch. En dollar gestadine, verspent der dollar heid. Jo spissel wechslet zähle, bemacht die Ormie leid. En dollar gester gesteckelt, en gescheiter Mann tut's weg. No wann mir in die Not kommt, hoscht mei uf Hand wie Dreck. Now, for those of you that are Pennsylvania Dutch, that last paragraph, the second verse, is as Pennsylvania Dutch as it comes. You stick those dollars away. You save them. You don't go out and buy the latest this, that, and the other thing, because you never know when you're going to need that money. When you come into need, wann mir in die Not kommt, as we say in Pennsylvania Dutch. So Peter, and you can buy his book. We're shouting out Masthof Press all night. His book, I think, is still available at Masthof Press. Just search his name, Peter Fritsch. It's a great book of poetry, and it's full of his artwork in there as well. So Peter, thank you for what you gave us. You left us too soon, but thank you so much for what you gave us. So there's our poem for the month. And now it's time for me to put on my singing voice and get my instrument out, because we're going to sing a song in Pennsylvania Dutch as soon as I find it. And I was thinking, what song am I going to do this month? And I decided, well, I'm going to do Daheim auf der Altbauerei. Now, I got to talk a little bit about this song first. So when you go to a Pennsylvania Dutch versamling or a groundhog lodge, an important part of the evening is singing. We've talked about that in one of our previous episodes with Dr. Bill Donner back in February. Singing is a huge part of our culture. So one song that is often sung at the versamlings and groundhog lodges is Daheim auf die Altbauerei, or translated in English, home on the old farm. Now, this is a song that the lyrics were written by G. Gilbert Snyder, and he set them to the tune of Home on the Range. Now, if you're an American, that's a song you grew up probably singing. Da 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 da. So this is a song that is often commonly sung at these events. But what I really love about this translation and this version is that it's only two verses. So in the first verse, he sings about the old farm. Why did I leave the old farm where everything was wonderful? We never ran out of anything. We all understood each other. Home on the old farm. And then it goes into the chorus. The old farm, there were the cows and the pigs. There was nothing wrong. No one was complaining. Home on the old, this idyllic image of the Pennsylvania Dutch farm that so many Pennsylvania Dutch people grew up on. But then in the second verses, this is what I love so much about this song. He then turns the song and stops singing about the old farm and starts singing about the new farm. And he's talking about after we pass away. His vision, at least in this song, of where you go after death is not clouds in the sky, maybe, but for him, it's a farm, the new farm. One day I will come to the new farm in heaven where everything is fine. My friends I'll see, and it'll be our last harvest together, home on the new farm. And into the chorus, the new farm where everyone's happy and free. My family is there. No one ever leaves home on the new farm. That second verse to me is so beautiful of an image. I'll tell you what, as many of you know, I am a religious person. I'm a good practicing Lutheran. And, we grow up with these images of what heaven might be like. But for me, that second verse speaks to me as well, that someday when we pass, we'll go to a new farm where the crops are unending and there's animals and we're all together. So I love Gilbert Snyder's translation of this song. Now I'd like to sing it for you guys. So give me a second. And you can take a look at the words. I didn't translate the English on the paper, but I just kind of like translated it on the fly for you there. What's my Strohhut up, Nema? I usually wear a flat hat, but tonight I thought it was like summer today, as I already said. So I put on my good Strohhut, as we say in Pennsylvania Dutch, my good straw hat, because it's like summer out there. So if you want to sing along, the melody, Home on the Range, I'm just going to sing through the thing. You can sing along or you can just listen to me. Or at this point, if you want to mute me, that's fine too. You can't mute me at the UCC, North Heidelberg UCC concert, though, unless you leave. So there are your options. Over was bin ich von der Altbauerei, dat war doch alles gedreit. Wo gar nix ausgeht, als mir noch net versteht, daheim auf der Altbauerei. Die Altbauerei, dat war die Kälber und Sei, dat war gar nix letzt, es war nimmi en Gretz, daheim auf der Altbauerei. Ich komm alle Tag zu der Neubauerei, im Himmel, wo alles ist fein. Mein Freund seh nicht gern, es ist die letzte Dorn, daheim auf der Neubauerei. Die Neubauerei, dat sind die Leid herrlich und frei. Die Freundschaft ist dat, sie geht nimmer fort, daheim auf der Neubauerei. Daheim auf der Neubauerei. Well, there you go, people. Now we're on the farm, whether we're on the old farm or the new farm or any farm. They were on the Stoltzfus farm. It doesn't matter. I hope you like that song. I just think that translation, it kind of makes me tear up a little bit every once in a while when I sing that at a versamling. You just think about, man, what that image is just so beautiful to me. But in any event, my dear friends, we have come to the end of another episode of PA Dutch Live. Where does the time go? 52 Minuten haben wir geschwätzt. We've been talking for 52 minutes. I just don't know where this time goes. Thinking about, moving into the future, I would like to give one more shout out here. Real quick, I'm going to throw this across the bottom. If you like what we do here, you are more than welcome to support the channel by buying me a coffee. Any coffee you buy will go towards that money, will go towards the upkeep of the channel, purchasing new equipment, software, things like that. I'm not going to use it to go out and do anything crazy, just so you know. But if you would like to support the channel, just check out Buy Me a Coffee there across the bottom of the screen. You'll find it. buymeacoffee.com/Doug Maidenford. That's enough of that stuff. People, just check if we have any last comments before I head out. Next month, I don't have a date for the June episode yet, but I'll let you guys know once I have a date set. I'm working on hopefully getting a pretty darn cool guest. All my guests are cool. I don't want that to come off the wrong way, but I'm constantly trying to find people that will be engaging and people that will make you want to come and watch the show. So keep an eye out on the Facebook page and on the YouTube channel for the next upcoming episode. But in the meantime, don't forget, the channel has tons of good stuff. We got our Pennsylvania Dutch Word of the Week every Friday. Most Wednesdays, we have Your Pennsylvania Dutch Minute. And at the first Sunday of the month, Ask a Pennsylvania Dutchman. Those are all series that are found on the YouTube channel. And if you have an idea for a future video, or if you have a question about anything Pennsylvania Dutch related, whether it's language, culture, history, food, if I don't know the answer, I'll ask somebody that does, and then I will get back to you. That is a promise from me to all of you. I really love that all of you joined us today. Of course, when this is over, it will archive on my YouTube channel, and then you can share the link with anybody that missed it, or you can go back and watch it again because you were so enthralled with what Nick had to say tonight. You can go back and watch Nick's segment again, of course, or whatever you want to do, but it'll be out there for anybody. So I got a couple people here that I'd just like to give a quick shout out. Carol, thank you. No, thank you for always joining us and being so supportive. I really appreciate your support and everybody's support. Yuri joins us and is saying, really enjoyed the show. Why not do a full show in Pennsylvania Dutch? Yuri, that might happen down the road. I always have to keep in mind that a lot of my viewers maybe are really into Pennsylvania Dutch, but they might not all speak Pennsylvania Dutch. So I gotta be cognizant of that. But down the road, we might try and get some guests on that we can have a little bit more interaction in Pennsylvania Dutch. But Yuri, check out my other videos on my YouTube channel. There's tons of videos that are just in Pennsylvania Dutch to maybe fill that void until then. D. Bryn 13 says, beautiful song. It is a beautiful song. I didn't write it. I just sang it for you tonight, but the credit goes to G. Gilbert Snyder for those wonderful lyrics. Brigitte says, absolutely love the show. Haven't missed one yet. Thank you so much for joining us again this month, and I look forward to seeing you again in June. And then finally, the Mennonite Farmhouse says, hello from Needmore. Just found your channel last night. Well, I'm glad you found it. There's tons of great stuff on there, Mennonite Farmhouse. Hopefully you enjoyed our discussion tonight, because that's right up your guys' alley, it sounds like. Anyway, well, people, we're now at 56 minutes. It's time for me to get on out of here. Thank you for joining us, of course. Tell everyone about what we're doing here. Share the link with people so that they can join us in the future. If you know someone that's interested in anything Pennsylvania Dutch related, share the YouTube channel, share my Facebook page, PA Dutch 101. Check out my blog as well at padutch101.com. There's tons of great stuff out there for you to fill that Pennsylvania Dutch void that you're trying to fill. And I hope to see and physically meet some of you on the 13th of June at the North Heidelberg UCC Church for our concert starting at 6 o'clock. The music's going to be good. I can't tell you that the artists are going to be good looking, but the music will be good at least. And there'll probably be really great food there as well. Knowing the people at North Heidelberg, I'm sure it's going to be some good Pennsylvania Dutch fare. So until next month, dear friends, Brüder und Schwester, please take care. Practice your Pennsylvania Dutch. And as you know how I always close everything, mach's gut, everybody. Zettel für die lange Weg, 2 Flaschen Whisky für die Zeit, und ich date gern habe, du bist dabei. Maria geht, fahrt mal weg, ist weit, wann ich geh, ich werd dir fehlen, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht mehr, was ich mach, du sehst nicht mehr, wie ich lach, ich werd dir fehlen, du watsch sehen. Hab kriegt mein Zettel für den langen Weg, du schönste, als mir finden kann. Es hat Maria und Dale ganz wunderbar, als ich dir den weißen Dank. Wann ich geh, ich werd dir fehlen, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht mehr, was ich mach, du sehst nicht mehr, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir fehlen, du watsch sehen.